further to our next technology presentation on the topic Drive for Data Technology in Financial Services. To present that, we have with us Mr. Arvind Swami, Director Financial Services, Red Hat Asia Pacific. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. My name is Arvind Swami. I am responsible for the FSI vertical in Red Hat. Without much further ado, I'll jump into what I'm going to be talking about. You will see data and data technology appearing on the screen, and it must be that, hey, it's a topic which has been there for a very long time. Why should we be talking about it? And I'm going to be talking about what has changed and what makes data a lot more relevant to financial services in the coming year. But before we jump into that, let's quickly have a look at where do we sit right now. And I don't want to delve too much into the pandemic and the COVID-19, but it has definitely changed how we work. Things like work from home, which drove a lot more even connectivity, but apart from collaboration and automation, we also saw a lot more digital transactions happening. And that has also given a huge rise to scalability and adoption of hybrid cloud. This continues. It is not going to stop by any chance, but does this give you the financial institutions an edge? I think this has been more focused on being agile and reactive. But in order to be able to look at their customer base, in order to be able to look at how they're going to grow it and maintain that stickiness, they need to relook at the data. Now, what do I mean by that? Why do they have to relook at it? Things have changed from the traditional ways where financial institutions were more focused, I would say 20, 30 years ago, on collecting data, not churning it. Then we started seeing some degree of analytics coming into play, financial institutions looking at it to do some account segmentation, targeting their customers. Then we saw some degree in the last few years of some super apps coming into play, where moving away from products to service, providing a seamless experience across various channels. But what we are seeing now is a lot more around hyper-personalization. This is where it is about not just knowing your customer, but building that unique profile of that customer, and that which continuously learns and adapts over a period of time. So this is where it's going to drive a lot more from leveraging the data, analyzing it constantly and in a real-time manner. So that is one definitely an aspect in the coming years, which is going to force financial institutions into looking at data differently. The other two elements are quite different. One is definitely social. What we call ESG, enterprise, environmental, social, and governance. And there is a heightened demand on the investors to look at sustainable investments, which means financial institutions, wherever they put in money, they need to have an idea as to what the financial institution or the investments are being used for. And this is a lot of risk management associated with it. Now, where does data come into that picture? That means that financial institutions have to collect a lot of data, not from regular sources, but from a lot of public sources. This also requires a huge amount of data integration. It requires a lot more collaboration, which was not at the scale which was earlier from external sources. Also, it requires data to be processed at a very high scale, and standards to be set up. Because if you're going to access data from multiple external sources, there need to be some standards. And the last piece is around edge, and edge is something which is gaining a lot more important. But what does edge mean on data? What it means on data is that edge, by definition, brings computation and data storage closer to the data where it's generated. What that means is that data needs to be processed not just at a central location. It can be processed away. Now, there has been a lot more talk And I think in the coming years, there'll be a lot more activity on the edge side, simply because I think of two things. One is network technology has gotten way better, which means that accessibility all around has gone up. The second factor is that the compute power on the devices that we carry has gone up significantly, which means that the traditional computation, which they could do, they can do a lot more. That means that you do not have to move on the network back and forth. Rather, you can do some compute at the edge itself. And this is going to change how we start looking at data going ahead. Now, we are all on the technology side. If you look at it, how would the architecture look at from a technology perspective? Obviously, the application development, delivery, integration, the life cycle, CI/CD will continue. Data management and analytics from governance and process point of view will continue the way it is. You will have the integration hub, which will bring in all the various data sources. You will have the edge, and obviously then you'll have the means of delivering that to the end customer in the manner that you would want to look at. But what does it mean from a data element? How does data support all of this? And this is where we see that there has been a change, that the amount of data collection and from the sources has gone up significantly. We're seeing a lot more data integration elements coming on it. I was talking about when I spoke about ESG, this is going to be not just through regular sources, through external sources, through public sources. So this will increase in size exponentially. From an enterprise data management, the challenges which were there earlier in terms of availability of data, increased volume that is being generated real time and being stored, the comparability of it so that there is a degree of transparency associated, the reliability, none of that changes. But the big element that will change is this, which is how can it be made available fast enough? If you look at it, this is not just about access to ML tool, but this is a lot more about self-service. And when we say self-service, to an extent, it's about like a self-service cloud-like experience, which means that in the past, when we spoke about data, we spoke a lot about data lake. We spoke about how the data would be shared into the data, pumped into the data lake through various sources in a batch mode, some in online mode. This is not what it is about. You're not waiting for them to be available. You want to be in a self-service mode. You want your model deployment in the app dev process to be really fast. But more importantly, you want the source, you want the infrastructure available to be able to process this amount of data in a fast manner, and not just available, but in a self-service manner. If you look at the next slide, what this shows you what exactly it means from an architecture perspective. So in order to execute on this process, the process that has been highlighted on the top, you will need your software tool chains like TensorFlow, Jupyter, notebooks, Python, and data services, which would be like the SQL, non-SQL, the traditional ways. And then as this goes on, it has to be supported by self-service hybrid multi-cloud platform. I know it is a bit mouthful, but this is what is going to be the big piece, because this will allow data scientists to be able to process the data across all spectrums throughout the whole process without depending a lot on IT ops for individual tasks. This is going to be the big element. Obviously, this will have its own integration with hardware accelerators like GPUs to speed up the ML model development and interfacing. And finally, the hybrid platform, the cloud platform, should offer consistent experience across on-premise, public cloud, and edge locations, and to be efficiently managed in a seamless manner by IT operations. That is going to be the important element. I think going ahead, the pieces which we had in the past, we had some aspects of data management, we had analytics tools available, but what was more important was that to drive at the scale and to be able to look at it from a I would say, geography independent. And the term I would like to use here is the distributed data centric manner. In that case, you have to leverage the hybrid multi-cloud platform. And in order to achieve speed, it has to be more from a self-service ability. So in summary, if I try to look at the three fundamental trends that will drive a data, or that will trends towards a data-driven enterprise, the first one would be is linked to what I said was the edge, would be data gravity, where the data is processed. Financial institutions have to start re-looking at their architecture. I know in the last year, a lot of them have been focusing on moving to the cloud, but now they have to relook at it when they move application to cloud, that what is their data architecture going ahead. And that will drive a lot of it, because we are not going to be looking at centralized computing anymore. We will be looking at this as decentralized. Then the second piece is obviously going to be about towards smart hyper automation. This is more about looking at providing the standards that we have, or the automation capability in IT ops, DevOps, data ops, ML ops. This will help speed matters. And the last thing would be around everything as a code. The whole concept of everything as a code is trying to make it standardized, trying to take the error element or the human element out of it, and allows to scale and optimize the management of these distributed data and application workloads. So if I try to summarize it, data in 2022 and beyond is going to be a big way. Financial institutions have to relook at how they've been thinking about their architecture, which in turn will drive a lot more of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud delivery models, looking at leveraging hyper automation and everything as a code. And this will give them the scale and the speed that they would need to go ahead. That's it from my side, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining this session. I hope you have gotten some idea on why we think data is going to be that much more important. But at the same point of time, you've gotten some idea on what we have available to help you in there. If you have any questions, please do reach out to us. More than happy to help you on any of these conversations going forward. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you for such a great presentation. I hope our viewers must have enjoyed and gained a piece of knowledge through this. Now, as a token of appreciation, I would like to present appreciation certificate to Mr. Arvind Swami, Director Financial Services, Red Hat Asia Pacific. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you